crypto warriors, changing our world day by day. The way of the crypto warriors, can't rely on the bankers, no way.
Good morning, Bix Weir, roadtour.com. With your morning horn disease, your sip of chaga coffee. Get your mug from the, where is it? On the road to Ruta. Where's the shop? There you go. You can get your merchandise there, Road to Ruta stuff, just for fun. You know, wouldn't you like to sit with your morning horn disease with the Road to Ruta on the back? Go check it out. So yesterday I posted a private road discussion on there are certain times within this year that is most likely to see banking shutdowns, shutdown of the government, for the bigger things to happen. And I posted that for all you private road members. It's called Yellen and Ruta both say the end game is here. Yes, absolutely. Everything's lining up. I came up with the Road to Ruta theory, the theory that there are good guys behind the scenes working to take out the banking cabal. It really started on January 1st, 2007. Yes, it's been a long road. 16 years, long, hard, but I learned so much in that time. And hopefully those of you, some of you guys have been following me since day one, and have a real grasp on, yes, it's complicated behind the scenes. There's a lot they don't tell us. Nobody tells us. Things you need to know about the Federal Reserve, about the U.S. Treasury, about the U.S. government, about the true banking cabal, about all the good guys and bad guys, all that stuff. Remember, Bix Weir, was screaming that there were good guys behind the scenes working on this long before Q, long before Trump, long before many people at all were talking about it. Nobody, I would say, from what I remember. I got ostracized by GATA, the Gold Antitrust Action Committee. I didn't get ostracized. They got all pissed off when I started talking about the amount of gold that is available. And, and that there's good guys behind the scenes at the Fed. That pissed them off too. But it went so deeply ingrained against their core thesis that gold is the only money and gold is a finite resource. And we know exactly how much gold has been mined in the past 300, 400 years, thousands of years. We don't. We might, but what the government tells you is a lie, perpetuated by guys like Jeffrey Christian of CPM Group. Probably the worst shill of all the shills on the banking side, the cabal side. But they pay him well. He gets paid well, and he gets thrown out at all these conferences as the leading expert on gold and silver supply and demand. So yeah, there's not 200,000 tons of gold that have been mined in the world. There's more like probably 2 million tons above ground and more below ground. But I've talked about that a million times. The Federal Reserve Bank of Boston actually wrote it in their comic books when you read between the lines on the Road to Ruta. And that's when I started this venture, the Road to Ruta. Ruta means Root A. Root A is a programming term for the basis of our financial system. It goes, if you're a computer programmer, you understand tree structures and root structures. You start at Root A, and for the financial system this is in the early 70s, IBM was sending out this software, and Root A was a Fortran programming concept where you start with Root A, and then you have checking, savings, money market funds, all the banking stuff. This is the beginnings of banking with computers. And the number one expert in banking computing back then was a guy named Alan Greenspan. Yes, Alan Greenspan, the same Mr. Bubbles as modern day people know him as, if they're into the Fed. But before that, he was Mr. Gold. He was absolutely the biggest gold bug on the planet. And Root A could also stand for gold, the underlying basic, throughout history, the underlying strong asset that held the system together. That was abandoned in 1971 And the only reason they were able to do that was the computer programs that Alan Greenspan wrote to not only create the new banking system, the electronic banking system that we live in today, but to create computer rigging operations to control the price of gold, the price of silver, the price of stocks, bonds, the price of everything, foreign exchange, oil, everything is traded on computers with derivatives. That's how the system has lasted so long. Usually you go off a gold standard, maybe 7-8 years and it's over. Especially with paper money, because they just end up printing way more. Wouldn't you? If you had a printing press and everybody relied on you to print the paper money, you start out saying, oh, I'm going to take care of everything, and then you print the shit out of it. But you do, long before that, you print it and don't tell anybody. That's what the U.S. government has been doing. There is no limit to the amount of U.S. dollars or Federal Reserve notes that can be created. And they have abused that. The budgets they talk about are ridiculous. They don't even care anymore. I mean, Catherine Austin Fitts and Professor Skidmore have found over $100 trillion in unaccounted for U.S. Treasury bonds. $100 trillion with a T. And then you layer on top of that all the derivatives that go along with it, and it's completely unknown. And that's actually what Ruda wrote in the sand in the comic book. The best way to get from a non-gold standard back to a gold standard is to print as much money as you can, print to infinity, soaking up all the benefits. You build your roads, your bridges, your houses. That's what we've been doing for at least a very long time, shall we say. Rehypothecation, and which means assets. Like, for example, how many you take a certain bond, and that the U.S. gave, say it's a $1 million bond that the U.S. government sent out, and somebody bought it, somebody holds it. How many times has it been bought and sold, and how many owners of that bond are there that they think there are? There's a lot. That's the rehypothecation problem. And then there's the fractional reserve problem. Banks are just golden as things are going up, because they can take their initial deposits and create 10 times. That's how money is created. Create 10 times the amount in loans to everybody for various things, some risky, some not risky. And that's great when things are expanding. When they contract, all the banks, all the investments are selling the same thing. And that's where we're about to be. You're going to see an implosion of the U.S. dollar, the stocks, bonds, everything you don't hold in your possession. Now, what should do well, and it won't do well monetarily. You won't see silver going to $600 on any exchange on the planet. As a matter of fact, there's only one exchange on the planet for silver, and that's the COMEX, which is futures and options. You won't see $600 silver on the COMEX. COMEX will be long shut down before that happens. $600 silver is going to happen when silver's freely traded, and everything else is imploding. As like right now, everybody's in U.S. Treasuries because they're paying 4 or 5%, right? When they default on the debt coming up, and this is a planned thing, by the way, everybody will have to leave, be running out of U.S. Treasuries. Where would they go? Nobody knows. Go back into stocks? Going to some other crazy country's treasuries? I don't think so. I think a massive amount of money is going to flow into gold. And then once you understand gold, you understand, holy shit, the gold-silver ratio is over 80-1. And silver's so much more important than gold. And then at some point, they'll realize, my God, there's 10 times more gold than what we've been told. And there's more on the ground that we've been hiding in military bases, in national parks, desert wildlife preserves. Dianne Feinstein was famous for that. 41% of the land in California is owned by the federal government. So California will never secede from the Union. It was all bullshit all along. One, California doesn't have an army. The federal government does. But number two, the federal government owns 41% of the land, and all the land that they own is down in that gold-rich area down in Southern California, kind of near, more closer to Nevada and Arizona down there, where there's massive amounts of gold. There's massive amounts of gold in the Grand Canyon area, all throughout that area. And some are huge deposits, the mother lodes, that supposedly we never found where all that gold in the sand came from. There was a massive gold rush along the Colorado River back in the early 1900s. And one of the reasons that the bankers set the price of gold so low at, what was it, $20.67, that was right the baseline, barely profitable for miners to mine gold at that price. That's why they set the price so low. They didn't want more gold coming into the system. And then they found massive amounts in the Grand Canyon. They locked up the Grand Canyon. And then the Fed was created and literally destroyed all the economics for the gold mining companies. So you had a fixed price of gold, $20.67, and your costs were increasing because the Fed was able to print more money than what was in the system. In the beginning, it was only 2-to-1. Now it's 10-to-1. But so that was, the entire and that the confiscation of gold was mainly a confiscation of bank gold brought into the U.S. Treasury. The U.S. knew how much gold they had, but they also wanted the gold miners to be profitable because they weren't. They were all going out of business at $20.67. That's why Roosevelt raised the price of gold from $20.67 to $35 instantly. I mean, everybody only thinks about, oh my God, he screwed all the investors. First he stole their gold, and then he changed the price. Well, what it really did was it saved the miners. All of a sudden, mining gold became very profitable. If they had done that in the 1900s, the entire length of the Colorado River would have shed billions and billions of ounces of gold because of the price of gold. It would have been very profitable to extract all that gold out of the Grand Canyon, the sands of the Colorado River, and all that. And they probably would have found the mother lode. Now, some people say they already did find the mother lode. The mother lode is the initial gold deposit where it gets like chipped away over time, and that's how you get the placer gold in the sand downstream, is because you start with a mother lode or a few mother lodes. And over the millennia, the gold, it doesn't get destroyed. Gold is never destroyed. But it goes into the sand down the river, and you have times when the river's really roaring and knocks off chunks of gold, and then it gets spread out very, very, very tiny pieces within the sand. And that's been proven many times in the early 1900s. That there was a huge, massive gold rush, and then it was cut off and shut off by the U.S. government, turning everything into a national park down there. So that's kind of the rundown of what's going on. Now, let's talk about where we are now. Oh, by the way, you can go on the private road. You can go check that out. I talk about the dates when I think it's all going to go down. But part of that is this debt ceiling debacle. My own take: they can kick the can down the road. They can. Let's be honest. They've been kicking the can down the road since the invention of Fed in 1913. Of course they can kick the can down the road. They don't even have to tell you about why. Everything's fixed. Don't worry about it. They'll use their computer programs to jack up the stock market, suppress gold and silver and cryptos, and then keep the game going if they want to. They can also do the opposite of that if they want to, and I think that's where we are. The opposite of kicking the can is destroying the current unbacked fiat monetary system. And who's going to get the blame? You're going to see Congress get the blame, which they deserve it. The bankers get the blame, which they deserve it. The international bankers absolutely get the blame because they deserve it. No, there will be no quantum financial system. No, there will be no IMF taking over the world. No, there will be no the Dick Allgaiers, bad guys controlling your life. No, that's not going to happen because we won't stand for it, and we don't have to. We have free will. Free will is a basic concept in the universe. We have free will. If that's what we wanted, we would do it. Raise your hand if you want the World Economic Forum or the IMF or the World Bank to take over the new monetary system. They're the ones who fucked up the old one. Not a chance in the world. And the people in the United States have the power. Who has the power right now in the United States? The U.S. military? Psh, there's guys in dresses running the U.S. military. Is it the government? Does our government really have the power? And the power is you as an individual, as a citizen of the United States, have the choice to say, no, I refuse. This is an insane government. I won't give them my power at all. Do the banks have the power? Not when they lose your deposits, which all of them are insolvent right now. So when's the next shoe going to fall? I talk about that in the private road discussion. Anyway, Biden meeting with congressional leaders today on the debt ceiling. And then tomorrow, they're not going to come to any decision. Tomorrow, he flies off to the G7 meeting. Congress has maybe 6 or 7 working days left before they take a break and don't come back until June. All this is going to happen when nobody's in town. So unless they come out of the meeting today saying, oh, yeah, we've come to a working decision, chaos hits, banks fail, boom, boom, boom. How long will it take? Your guess is as good as mine. Actually, I have good guesses, I think. So go check that out. Anyway, interesting that the G7 meeting is being held in Hiroshima. We all know what happened in Hiroshima back in the 40s. Yeah, the thing I never understood is that, we've been told our whole lives that, you drop a nuclear bomb, that's radiation in that place is gone for hundreds of years, right? Hundreds of years. It'll never support life. 2 years later, Hiroshima was up and running again. What happened to all that radiation? Or was it really a bomb? I don't know. That's another conspiracy thing that some people have run down that story and said it was all a fear tactic. It was a massive regular bomb. It wasn't a nuclear bomb. Who knows? I don't know. But all we hear is a lot of lies. So I don't believe our government when they open their mouth. So, or the world governments. But they are holding the G7 summit in Hiroshima. I don't even know if Joe Biden's going to come back from this, truthfully. If he'll be on the road when the debt ceiling falls. I mean, clearly he's got to get out of Dodge because of his legal issues. So, yeah, a lot of weird shit happening. Basically, get your silver, and if you have to have gold for some crazy reason, go for it. But if you understand gold, then you understand that silver is gold on steroids. And I think it's 85 to 1, the gold silver ratio, or close to that right now. It will go to 7 to 1, which is coming out of the ground. Ultimately 1 to 1, because there's 6 billion ounces of gold in the world available and 6 billion ounces of silver if you melt everybody's fillings. Lots going on, obviously. Debt. This is from Wall Street Journal. Debt fears rattle Main Street investors. How could you not be rattled as an investor? Investors only chase price. If the price is crashing, they sell. If the price is rising, they buy. It's the exact opposite of what you think it's supposed to do. So if the Exchange Stabilization Fund, with the help of Alan Greenspan's computers, can rig the markets high, will people leave the stock market, even if there's a debt ceiling default? They probably won't. They'll probably make up some story. Oh, everybody's leaving bonds and going to the stock market, which is the exact wrong place. Why do you think they left it in the first place to go to something safe like bonds? Now bonds are called into question. Are they going to go back into something risky? Hell no, I wouldn't. But then again, I'm not your average Joe. I mean, we're literally getting to that point where the only thing left to invest in is standalone assets. The assets that can survive the crash of the stupid government, the stupid banks, the stupid global elite. And that's silver. That's my number 1. Good cryptos, my number 2. Well, gold would be my number 2 if I didn't have silver. So silver and gold, and then good cryptos. And that all depends on, because all the crypto exchanges will be closed too. You won't know the price of Bitcoin or Litecoin or anything else. With the banks crash, all those are gone. They just disappear because most of them, there's some decentralized exchanges that might have some trading on it. But when everybody loses everything, you lose it. It's like you lose it mentally. We're going to see massive chaos. It's just going to happen. And there's nothing we can do about it except get your assets in your own possession. My favorite cryptos, I think I like Bitcoin. Not as much as I like Litecoin, a lot more than Bitcoin. It's more useful. And now it's like really looking at will the SEC stay in business? Will Gary Gensler, the guy who wrote the check for the Steele dossier and the Trump conspiracy, will he still run the SEC? I don't know. Probably not. I think the SEC will be, with no markets open because the banks have collapsed, and there is no SEC. We're getting into it's going to be that crazy. The only thing you can do is have your assets in your own possession. So, Theta is my long run crypto. Everybody's going to be looking for Theta as the system as the chaos ends, a new system is implemented. Again, I believe that there are people behind the scenes that have been working for decades, over 100 years, to create the new system. And there's a lot of signs that that's really happening. That's what that notch at the bottom of the gold and silver eagles are for. That's to put an identifier on it so you can, and in some countries are already experimenting with this. So you can hold a silver eagle at, it wouldn't be at a bank, it would be with the U.S. government, probably at a local post office, and you can buy and sell things with an app on your phone off a blockchain. Theta would be a great blockchain to use, but who knows? That blockchain would have to be immutable. They'll probably use the Bitcoin or Litecoin blockchain. And you buy a cup of coffee with your phone, taking a little sliver off that silver eagle that you have in storage with the U.S. government. A different kind of U.S. government. We're going to have completely new leaders, too. So that's kind of where we are. Wall Street Journal says Benjamin Samuels, a 31-year-old cybersecurity auditor from Los Angeles, started shifting his emergency cash into treasuries last year, attracted by raising interest rates. He hadn't expected the U.S. government, thought to be the world's safest borrower, to find itself within 2 weeks from default. Yes, you need to get out of treasuries, too. You need to get out of everything that's not in your possession. Anyway, this article is pretty good. It goes through, you can see it on the Wall Street, WSJ.com. Yellen keeps saying June 1st. If any of the banks crash before that, that's in 2 weeks, that money gets used up even faster than June 1st. So keep an eye on that. And I really don't think that Biden and the Democrats or the Republicans are going to come to any kind of resolution. As a matter of fact, Trump said that. Hey, great time to default because I'm not in office. But we've been saying that for a very long time. The Republicans wanted the system to crash with the crazy Democrats in charge. Spending massive amounts of money, opening the borders. It's just been insane. So, again, I don't think the Republicans are going to bend an inch. So we are looking at a default. And what happens following that, who knows? Will they stop rigging the markets? Will they rig the market higher? They might say, oh, U.S. is better off without all that debt. Of course they are. $31 trillion in debt. It's just gone. If you default on it, what are they going to do? Come bomb us? Of course, there's many, many, many ramifications of what is going on here. And silver price won't show it until tomorrow. But by the way, it is Tuesday, and that's when the cutoff for the OTC silver, not OTC silver, the COMEX silver. The Commitment of Traders report is reported it's reported on Friday, but it's as of the end of trading on Tuesday. So that is today. So that's why you see Tuesday, the bad guys don't want to run yet because they're trying to cover their tracks. The top three, not four now, it's just three, because Ted Butler has done great research in the Commitment of Traders. The top three concentrated silver shorts are getting out of the way, completely out of the way. One of the managed money is so big shorting, I think it's BlackRock, shorting silver, that it has moved into the top four, which has historically been reserved for the banking silver shorts. But remember, BlackRock is not a bank, so they don't have the same kind of constraints. It won't show up in a lot of the data, but it does show up in the COT, the Commitment of Traders. And yeah, I think that's the only shorting entity right now that is BlackRock, who basically works for the Biden administration. So I would say this is an official short. And they're shorting. They're shorting into the rise, and they're short huge. Meanwhile, the three big criminals, probably J.P. Morgan, I'm sure J.P. Morgan and Bank of America. And then the third is either Citibank. I mean, we can look at who's doing the deliveries, which are tiny, but clearly J.P. Morgan is in the middle, orchestrating this crap. But Bank of America is right there too. Look at that. They had to deliver 458 ounces contracts, which is what, for over 2 million ounces. But look what they've done. I mean, all year they've just been takers of silver. And now all of a sudden they flip to the supplier of silver. Interesting. Really interesting, because if you look at, we're halfway through the month and there's still about a quarter of the contracts that haven't been delivered yet. maybe 20%. I mean, remember, every day you have to deliver that silver. Every day it sits in inventory, you're paying storage fees. If you have the silver, you just give it out right then. So there's 2 million ounces just sitting there, and it hasn't been delivered yet. What are they going to do? Wait to the end? And we can find out who it is. It's obviously J.P. Morgan and Bank of America. Those are the two big ones. Standard Chartered Bank is also a long-time silver rigging bank. They haven't done much, and all of a sudden they're a huge deliverer of silver in this crazy month. And Wells Fargo shouldn't even be in there. They're playing with the big boys. Scotia Capital right here is supposed to be out of the gold and silver business, but they apparently still need to be involved. So there's so much criminality going on. And Gary Gensler used to run this thing, run the CFTC. He ran it while J.P. Morgan was rigging the markets and got busted for it, but Gary Gensler got a promotion to the head of the SEC. There's two things to ask Gary Gensler. Number one, obviously, is you wrote the check for the Steele dossier because you were the treasurer of the Hillary Clinton campaign. You could throw him in jail for that, rigging elections. It's not like he didn't know what he was writing this monster check for. He was the treasurer of Hillary Clinton's campaign. And he had to sign that check. I want to see that check. I know it's probably a money transfer, but I want to see the contract. And number two, Gary Gensler was the guy allowing J.P. Morgan to rig the silver market back from 2008 to 2014. So Gary Gensler has a lot to answer for, in my opinion. Anyway, that's what's going on. Here's the delivery of the late deliveries. Scotia Capital. So Scotia might be on the hook. They're halfway through the month and they're still delivering contracts. It might be Scotia, which isn't even supposed to be in silver. So crazy world. It's crazy. I'll keep you guys updated. A lot of private road stuff coming up. Jenny Moonstone hurt her back, so she hasn't been on the show for a few weeks. I hear she's getting better, which is great. I will see if she's up for doing a show this week. Not sure. But I just keep going on that private road and check out the timeline post I just did for you private road members. I think one of the dates I talk about will probably be it. That's what I got. You want to join the private road, go to roadrunner.com, click on subscribe today, and we'll send you this cool coin. I'll talk to you guys later.